hypnosis with real clients facing genuine issues. Brought to you by the hypnotherapist demanded by celebrities, CEOs, and even royalty, Adam Cox. These recordings took place live from Adam's clinic in London's world-famous Harley Street. So, get yourself comfortable and enjoy today's episode of The Hypnotist.
Hi, it's Adam here, and in this episode of The Hypnotist, you're going to be listening to a hypnosis session all about panic and fear. And I was working with a client that had a panic attack in a medical operation. And at the time, they thought it was just a one-off. But then a couple of weeks later, they had a similar panic attack in a public environment. And that put a seed of an idea in their head that they could have a panic attack in any place at any time, but that it would be most distressing if it was in a public place or if it was in the kind of place that they couldn't easily get away from, like being on a plane. And because they had that thought, their brain went into something called hypervigilance. They were thinking and anticipating all of the kind of things that it would be awful to have a panic attack. And in turn, that increased the anxiety, leading to avoidance. And they weren't like that before the first panic attack. So in this hypnosis session, you're going to be hearing a metaphor of a river and a former riverbed where rivers used to flow through. And the riverbed that's dry represents how they used to think and feel. And the new river is the thought process, the neural pathway that leads to vigilance and panic. And what this is all about is saying, well, look, that new way of thinking is actually contributing to the very anxiety that they want to avoid. So it's about using a metaphor, direct hypnosis, and future pacing to reactivate the old neural pathway, because when they thought and felt that way of thinking, that resourceful way of thinking, meant that they didn't have the panic attacks anyway. So there's evidence within their own experience that way of thinking is more effective at reducing panic than the new way of thinking. And quite often you find this paradox with people with extreme anxiety, that the preparation and anticipation creates the very thing that they're looking to avoid. So this hypnosis session, I think, will benefit anyone that has the fear of being anxious or the fear of having a panic attack. And in particular, if you felt something different in your past, then you'll get more from this session. Of course, it was created for an individual. Some of the references might not relate to you because I didn't know who you were at the point where I recorded this. So if you do like the idea of a bespoke session customized to your exact situation and needs and outcomes, look in the description for a link to schedule a completely free consultation call, because that will enable us to have a chat to see if I'm the right hypnotherapist to work with you directly. For now, though, find a quiet, comfortable place where you won't be disturbed, relax, and enjoy the session. Take a deep breath in. And as you breathe in that slow, long, relaxing breath. And as you exhale, feel a sense of tension, stress, and worries, feeling like it's leaving your body in your outward breath. That's it. As you breathe in, just imagine breathing in distilled relaxation and confidence. And as you exhale, allow yourself to release any fears, doubts, worries, or insecurities. And imagine the resourceful feeling as a bright, colorful energy. And imagine any of those tensions and fears as dark shadows just leaving your body in every outward breath. And therefore, the deeper you breathe, the more resourceful and more relaxed you become. And the longer you exhale, the more it feels that you're releasing old ways of thinking and unresourceful emotions. What if now is exactly the right time to let go of something that hasn't been working? I want you to think of something you bought once that was meant to solve a problem, but it never worked very well. But because you invested in it, you kept it. But it never really did what you wanted it to do. Until one day, you found something that worked better. So you replaced what didn't work with something that did. And I want you to imagine that several years ago, you bought a way of thinking, hoping that it would help. But what if that very way of thinking was the problem and not the solution? And as we plant that seed of an idea deep in your subconscious mind, I'm wondering if it's going to be minutes, hours, or days that you decide to let go of that ineffective way of thinking because something else works so much better. And we don't have to guess what that thing is because you already have it. The way you used to think meant that you found yourself in resourceful, empowered feelings, and when you felt that way, anxiety and panic was elusive. So get that sense that you're already weakening the very foundations of that ineffective way of thinking. That's it. Loosen and release the very foundations. I want you to use the power of your imagination to imagine a riverbank. But I want you to imagine there is a river flowing with water, and not too far away is a dry riverbank. And you can tell that the dry riverbank used to be the main river until something happened. And when that thing happened, the water that used to flow that way started flowing into what now becomes the new river. But what if the new river is long and winding, and the old river was just a much better river than the new one? Imagine staring into the old river and the new river. One is flowing and one is dry. And just get a sense that you're willing to let go of something that is no longer serving you. I want you to imagine seeing both the new river and the old river. And I want you to get a sense that the old riverbed desires to be awakened, because the old riverbed was a way of thinking that made you feel relaxed and resourceful, confident and at ease. And the new river? This new river has a good intention, but it comes at a price. This is the river that leads you to feel anxious about what ifs and maybes, encourages you to avoid, whereas the old river would whisper in your ear, "You've got this, you can handle this, this is easy for you." And if there's a part of you that would like to reawaken the old way of thinking and feeling, let me know by nodding your head. That's it. Because your mind was trying to protect you. But in doing so, it leads you away from the very life that you want to live. And there is a part of you deep within that recognizes that you are not the anxiety, that you are simply the observer of all thoughts, feelings, and sensations. Just like watching water flow past in the new river without needing to jump in. And even if that river still flows at times, you don't need to follow it. You can notice it, accept it, allow it, and then gently return back to the old riverbed. Because the old riverbed carries you to where you want to go. And it's okay to feel fear. And instead of using avoidance, you step into the fear. Fear is like shadows. Action is like light. And often they don't coexist. And every time you carry discomfort and act in line with courage, more and more of that water is flowing into the old riverbed. I want you to get a sense that every time you avoid, the new riverbed flows faster. But every time you show courage, it's like building a dam and reawakening the old river. You are not the feeling. You are the river that carries the feeling. And fear may rise like a ripple, but you remain that old riverbed beneath it. In all the times you felt the anxiety, you survived. Sometimes it was unpleasant or distressing, but you survived. You've survived every flood. And now, I want you to imagine that you can ride the current. What if calm returns the more you remember that old version of you the version that made the evaluation that everything would be fine. I want you to imagine you are now seeing water flowing from one river being diverted into the old river. Feel the neural pathway of resourcefulness and confidence awakening within you. And I want you to imagine a moment in the near future, the kind of situation or circumstance that once brought fear. But I want you to see yourself like you're someone else, calm, relaxed, and confident in that very situation. See it from all different angles. People nearby, an imaginary camera filming you. See it from all different angles, you in that situation, looking calm, relaxed, and confident, unfazed, unbothered. And then imagine stepping into that version of you before the moment has even happened, and feel how it would feel to do the very thing that once brought fear in a calm, confident, relaxed way. And notice you're in a dialogue, encouraging you, not trying to pick out dangers and problems, but telling you that you will be fine, that you can handle this, you can manage this. You've done it before, you can do it again. And if any anxiety starts to rise up, I want you to imagine seeing yourself like you're someone else. See yourself managing that anxiety like it's an old echo, a small wave. And when you feel confident that that version of you is back on track, calm and confident, then switch places. Feel back in your own body, feeling calm, relaxed and resourceful. Echoes of anxiety are part of the process of reactivating that neural pathway of confidence, resourcefulness, and calmness. And allow your mind to imagine those very situations you've been worrying about or avoiding. Assume that they will go fine. And each time you do that, you are reawakening the old riverbed. And imagine a year from now, the old riverbed is now the dominant riverbed. And imagine yourself 1 year from now doing the kind of things that you could only do if this fear and fear of panic was no longer an issue anymore. See that future version of you absolutely resourceful, calm and confident, doing the very things that you could only do if a change was made that was permanent. Because when a riverbed reactivates, very quickly it gets deeper and wider. The old riverbed atrophies and the new one becomes dominant again. And I want you to imagine that your old neural pathway is awakening and will soon be the dominant, natural, and automatic way of thinking. But you need to train that neural pathway by imagining things going well and then choosing to do things to test that they are indeed going well. And each time you even attempt, you are reactivating the very way of thinking and feeling that will lead to even more positive evaluations. The self-fulfilling prophecy that has been haunting you will now be helping you. So as you look at both riverbanks, see the river of anxiety is now dry, and the river of resourcefulness is now in full flow. And it's time to leave this place in your imagination, so take a deep breath in through your nose and out through your nose. Wiggle your fingers, wiggle your toes, start to connect and calibrate into the here and the now. That's it. As I now count from 1 to 10 to awaken you. Starting to count. 1, 2, 3, waking up. 4, 5, 6, more alert. 7, 8, open your eyes, open your eyes. 9, 10, wide awake, wide awake, wide awake. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of The Hypnotist. And if you've enjoyed today's episode, I would encourage you, if you haven't already, to hit the subscribe button or follow button to make sure that you're automatically notified of any future episodes that I release. Also, by doing that, it lets the algorithm know that you like this show, and that will put it in front of even more people that might not know that this show exists. So that would be helpful for me. And if you like the stuff that I do, take a moment just to have a look in the show notes or the description, because there's lots of free things that I have to offer, including free hypnosis downloads without the intro or the outro like I'm doing now. So thank you again for joining me on today's episode, and I'll see you again soon for the next one.